Hello everybody, this is Jason Hires in my new location. This is my first video in this location. This is Essential Albums volume, I don't know, 39 or 40. And the album today I'm going to be talking about is by the Talking Heads, and the album is 77. Guess which year it was released. If you said 1977, then you're obviously a genius. Now, the Talking Heads are David Byrne, and David Byrne was the primary songwriter, singer, and rhythm guitar player for the band. Then on bass and drums, you had Tina Weymouth, who played bass, and you had Chris France on drums. And they actually ended up marrying, and I believe they're still together even today, so congratulations to them. In the rock and roll world, that's always impressive. And then they had Jerry Harrison, who came from a band called the Modern Lovers. He was the lead guitar player. Now, the Modern Lovers are a band that I could potentially do a video for at some point in time. They only really had the one key album that was called The Modern Lovers, but it was an influential album. It was they were based out of Boston, and one of the biggest songs on that album was called Pablo Picasso, which that song answers the question, what does Pablo Picasso rhyme to? And what I can tell you is Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole, not once. If you listen to the song, you'll understand. Bowie did a cover of Pablo Picasso on his Heathen album, which actually is pretty interesting. Or no, not Heathen, but Reality. It was on the Reality album. So if you get a chance, take a listen to that and see what you think of it. But anyway, 77 was the first Talking Heads album, and once again they come out of that rich New York scene that I've talked about a couple of times, and I am actually going to reference a couple other videos where I talk about the New York scene. There's a Ramones review I did, and there's also a television review I did, and I'm going to put a link to those two reviews if you want to remind yourself of what I've said before about the New York scene. And now, to me, the Talking Heads are a band that's kind of like the Police in a sense that their albums, they don't really have like a one single truly epic album. They have a lot of hit songs, and they have good songs on every single album that are really outstanding tracks, but there's a little bit of a lack of consistency. The only difference that between the Police and the Talking Heads is that the Talking Heads albums are stronger in the early part of their career, and then towards the end of the career it becomes more and more about just like the big hit songs on the albums, and the rest of the songs really are just kind of there. They're not really that terribly important. So the stronger albums in my mind, the two strongest Talking Heads albums in my mind are 77 and then the second album, which is more songs about building and food. A lot of people will cite the third album, though, Remain in Light, as being the best Talking Heads album. But I kind of think that the consistency and more songs about building and food and 77 are better. The album starts off, 77 starts off with a song called Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town. And that song is a good example of the Talking Heads. It's like here's the framework of the band. It has all the things that the Talking Heads have. It has funk elements. It has the quirky lyrics and the quirky song subjects. And, it does the kinds of things that the Talking Heads do. So it's a good representation of the band. And it's a good, fun song. And then there's also New Feeling, which is a great song. And then there's also Who Is It, which is a fun song. And that also really shows their funk side in it, because there's like a do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. As a bass on the Who Is It song, they use that as like the kind of the fundamental track. And so the Talking Heads use a lot of funk elements. They use a lot of polyrhythms. They use a lot of simple layering of musical ideas on top of each other. Then they use kind of a very Byrne is not like a melodic vocalist, but he does kind of a staccato delivery style, and it works really well for the band. His voice fits in the pocket of the funk. and so it works really well. And then with the kind of the weird subject matter that he likes to sing about, you know, it kind of adds a kind of a wide frame. It makes it pretty interesting. So you got a song like "Don't Worry About the Government," where David Byrne is basically writing in the first person, but "Don't worry about me" as the government. You know, there's just a lot of strange things like that that David Byrne does exceptionally well, and it kind of is what makes the Talking Heads a really unique band. And that's all in force on this first album. Everything that makes the Talking Heads what they are is right there on this first album. Of course, the biggest track on the first album is Psycho Killer, and that was a big hit. And it's a very popular song, and it's pretty interesting. It's, you know, the subject matter is interesting. The fact that he's doing, once again, a Psycho Killer song, and he's writing it in the first person is interesting. One quick thing that I forgot to mention when I tried to do take one of this review is that Talking Heads is a reference to newscasters, i.e. a talking head. You know, you just see the head of the newscaster on the TV. And Lord knows we have even more talking heads in the world now than we ever did, which, frankly, we could use less talking heads, if anything. And, but I'm going to show you a quick demonstration. This is from Psycho Killer. And I'm just going to try to show you a little bit about the funk elements so that you kind of understand how, while the Talking Heads are not like funk, like you know, like funkadelic funk, but they're still have a very, you know, I guess a very kind of white interpretation of funk. Sorry if that's racist, but they're not quite as in the pocket maybe, or as quite as dirty funk as like a true funk would be, but it's still very funky. It still has a lot of multi-layered instrumentalism that makes it interesting. So like when we do the Psycho Killer bass line, it's really a simple bass line, and a lot of funk is based off of really simple bass lines. And the bass line, the main bass line for Psycho Killer is just really simple. It's just... And then, now he's playing an A and an A7th, but he's playing the A in a slightly different position. So it's kind of, he's doing it kind of like taking a, I don't know what this chord would be, but it's like a B minor and sliding up, so it's a... And the other thing that's common is I'm playing an A7th up here like this, and it's really common for funk to use 7ths and 9th chords. So this little right here, this little... And also notice the way I'm playing it. I'm not just playing it straight, so I'm not like going... I'm doing it. And even this chord, I'm chunking it. I'm not just playing... See, if I was playing it straight with no funk elements... But instead it's Now, I'm not doing the best job of showing that, but basically, when you're playing it, when you're adding a funk texture, you're not going to just play it straight. You're gonna chunk it up and add a rhythmic structure to it. And see, that's the thing. You're taking a lot of really simple musical ideas and you're layering all on top of each other. So you got this, which has a and then you're layering this on top with its own distinct rhythm, which is So it's the collective effect of the layering and the different rhythmic structures that you're using. So basically, and this is where like the Talking Heads signature sound from, and kind of the signature sound for funk from General comes in, is just layering of simple ideas, playing them with different rhythmic textures. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you watching these reviews. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, leave me a comment. If there's anything that you want me to review, let me know and I'll look into it for you. Thank you and have a great day, guys. Bye.